Why?
That's why I'm kind of terrified.
And I don't need a finish line, I'm in my own lane.
Do you want to stay amateurs? Or take this to the next level?
Hustle never stops, I got no brakes. Seconds on the clock, taking no breaks.
Fast and Furious Crossroads is a 2020 game from Slightly Mad Studios. And I'm so confused. The thing is, I could be the stereotypical YouTuber and who reviews games and just shit on this game because it's obvious that this is it's very much a money grab game. There's probably not a lot of heart soul going into it with previous other games that were reviewed in 2020. Did I have a lot of hope going into it? Not really. So the outcome is not going to be as surprising. However, I did have a bit of faith in this game. The reason I had a little bit of faith going into it is because this is a game made by Slightly Mad Studios, who are kind of like an offshoot of Codemasters. And Codemasters have made a ton of racing games, a lot of them I've put many hours into. So I had a lot of faith in this because it was going to be done not entirely by the main team, I guess, of Codemasters, but kind of like a side project. Maybe it might be good. And on top of that, I kind of like this genre. Fast and Furious Crossroads is sort of an arcade racer with battling in it. And I miss those kind of racers, those kind of like car battling games. I don't really know the right name for it, but I used to play those games a ton. There's a game that came out years and years ago that I still have an absolute love for, which is called Split Second. It was a game that was published under Disney Interactive. I think that's a bit of a weird one, but it was actually a really good game. It was a racing game, but you could use the environment and the track around you to kind of get your advantage in the race. So you could knock over buildings, you could change how the track layout was going to be further on into the race. You could do these really cool cinematic kind of power-ups in the race, and it made the racing really exciting. And I love that kind of stuff. As well as Split Seconds, Blur. I love Blur. Blur is another one that was that kind of car racing, battling thing. Not necessarily as PG as Mario Kart. It was a little bit more trying to be on the realistic side, but it was still really good. This and Split Second, one of my favorites. So going into it, I was actually quite optimistic because I thought of my old days playing those kind of games like Blur and Split Second, and maybe Fast and the Furious Crossroads could be that new game to relive some of those memories. Let's talk about the game. So to give you some idea of my very first few hours with this game, which, you know, in some cases, in many video games, it's a very important thing to make sure the first few hours are great for the player. So they stick around, they enjoy the game, and they get hooked in. Fast and Furious Crossroads has one of the weirdest and also, in my eyes, or in my experience, the most broken opening I've played in quite some time. So the very start of this game, you get put into a scenario right from the get-go with Vin Diesel talking over. Yes, he is in this game, and more about him later. Doing a voiceover, and you are put into a scenario where you're driving a car and you don't really know what's going on because you literally just hit the start button. And I was already confused at this point. Now, the opening level is fine. It was entertaining. There was a lot of stuff going on that was quite exciting. It kind of showed you how to use shunts and different power-ups in the car, like nitrous, and you could use weapons to take down cars as well, which was quite exciting. The level ends, then you get an ending cutscene, and during that ending cutscene, The next level is sort of loading in the background as you're seeing the ending cutscene, which is great, saves time for the players, especially the fact that you can't skip the cutscenes, which became annoying later on. So this cutscene is playing at the end of the first level, and all of a sudden, the cutscene freezes. Just, I guess it was loading the next level, and it froze. So I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't skip the cutscenes. I couldn't just skip this just to see if it would do something. The cutscene has to fully play to get to the next bit. So the game crashed. So I loaded it again. And the same thing happened about 4 or 5 different times. Reinstall the game. At this point, I've played the opening level. Now, it's not entirely long, but it's about 5 to, I would say, 10 minutes long, I would say. But played this opening level again and again and again because I can't skip to the end or anything like that. And eventually, after the 7th or 8th time of trying, the game loaded into the next level. Funny enough, there was still a loading screen after the next bit, after the ending cutscene. So why the game crashed during the ending cutscene, only for me to think, oh, it must be quickly loading into the next level, only to find another loading screen. Just, what? So that's not entirely a good opening level. That's fine. I can kind of forgive that. Bugs happen. Okay, it's not great. I had to reinstall the game, all that kind of stuff. It's okay. I'll get past it. The very next level, after the first one, after that high-octane 8 times of trying level, trying to get it to work and learning the basics and stuff, the very next level is a slow drive to a destination in like a Jeep that's really slow. And you sort of just go from point A to point B while the credits roll, the opening credits to this thing, roll in the skyline above you. And that's that mission. There is a car chase at the end. But, like, it's a simple car chase. I mean, it's just one car chase, but the majority of that mission is going from point A to point B with a cutscene playing every time you hit those points. It's trying to build the characters and trying to tell a story and trying to set this whole thing up, the storyline of it, during this time in the second level. But my God, it goes from like kind of interesting to the most boring game ever within a level. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I can see what they're trying to do here with this game as well. It seems like they're trying to copy a lot of things from other games that have become like tropes in a way. One thing I mentioned earlier was the loading screens during the cutscenes. Very much reminds me of Uncharted when it works correctly. Definitely works with Uncharted, doesn't work with this game. But the same thing they did in the last Uncharted, which had you go into like an open world setting that wasn't really open world and drive around it. I think they're doing the same thing with this game on the second level. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't think this game really, I understand you're trying to build story and everything, but I don't think it's not going to work. It hasn't worked so far, let's put it that way. Even though the opening level and the confusion behind it and everything that my first few hours with this game was just like, what is going on with this thing? I eventually got into this game. I eventually started playing it and exploring the wondrous amount of things in this game. Oh, there's plenty. Let's talk about gameplay, because it's probably the most important thing besides the movie-like cutscenes in this game, I guess, for some people who are going to buy this. But gameplay-wise, the strongest element of this game is the gameplay, I would say. However, it's broken. It's crap. It's the strongest, but Jesus Christ, it doesn't work at all. Example of this is the majority of the time in this game, you are going to be chasing down someone in a car, or you're going to be chased by someone like police or something. But the majority of the gameplay consists of knocking other cars off the road, destroying the vehicles. They have health bars above them. You have a health bar. You have different abilities depending on which level you're on. Some of the abilities carry over to other levels. Some of them don't, depending which character you're playing as, it's still a little bit confusing to me as well. When you are trying to take down a car, and this happened all the time, like I'm talking, this is in the game, this is hardcode, this is a thing. The AI of this game are just the worst. Like, just the worst AI I've seen in a game this year. For example, say if you're chasing down a car that's in front of you, you eventually catch up to that car and you want to hit it off the road, let's just say. As soon as you get close to that car immediately slows down. Just when you get in the vicinity of that car, you know, in its space, its personal space, that car decides to slow down drastically. So what you end up doing is using like something like nitrous to get close to it because it's ahead of you. And then that car slows down. Then you've gone too far, and then you have to reverse back to catch up with the car again. It's not very Fast and Furious if you just try to chase down a car in like a really cinematic way, and then suddenly you go too quick, and then you have to reverse back to catch up with the car because it decided to slow down as soon as you got near it. But the other problem with this is even if you catch up to the car and slow down yourself to the pace that the other AI car has now become, since you are near him, you end up having this incredibly slowed down version of like a car battle, when it could be high octane, high paced, top speed, more exciting. But because the AI has to slow down when you're near it, you end up having this really slow sort of like Dodgems battle of that speed of a Dodgem, like just going really slow, going to the point where I was having battles where we were crawling at like 5 miles an hour, just hitting each other, just like shunting each other off the road at like 5 miles an hour. It's just it completely takes it out of the game, and it goes against everything that this game stands for, Fast and Furious. When you catch up to someone, it becomes slow and sloggy. As well as that for the AI, there are some times when I've seen like non-enemy characters or kind of the NPCs, you know, there's traffic and stuff going on in some of the cities and stuff, where the NPCs will just crash into each other at like junctions. They legitimately, I've seen like 9 car crashes when I was going at a very reasonable pace. You know, there was no action or car scene or police going off anywhere. It was just driving to a destination. And then suddenly all the other cars, as soon as they hit like a junction or roundabout or anything where they had to use a bit of like brain, they just crash into each other. So Vin Diesel does not as much voiceover work in this as you probably would expect with him being the main character. But that's probably for a good thing. He's possibly the worst voice actor in this game. And there's quite a few characters, I would say. He's probably the worst. Sorry, Dom. When he's delivering his lines, you can kind of tell he's found them in. That's all. Like, every time he delivers a line, you can tell he's just there to give the line. He doesn't really care much about the performance. It's very obvious. I don't know if it kind of adds to the hilariosity of this game. It kind of does a little bit. This game is more like funny than it is good, but in a bad way. To be honest, Vin Diesel's bad, but the majority of this story and everything around it to get you feeling like you care about people in this game, just maybe if you're a fan, you might, because you'll recognize some of the characters, but for like a person who's not a fan of the series, just jumping into this game, I really didn't care about the story. The story is mediocre as hell. As well as that, you're not going to be able to build a story unless you have plenty of like maybe emotional moments, maybe some incredible action scenes and stuff. While the game tries to do that and doesn't do it well, I would say there's actually some really good action scenes and really good set pieces that they put into this game. For about 20% of this game, the rest of it is a bit lackluster. You can't really build a story You can't really build a story unless this game is longer than 4 to 5 hours. This game, in length, the story mode, the main mode of this game, is 4 to 5 hours long. This is a full price AAA game. It's priced as a full price AAA game. It's 4 to 5 hours long. Now, that might be okay if there's some replayability about it. There's not. There's no difficulty settings. There's no collectibles. There's no alternative anything to this main part of the story. There's no fucking high score. Like the basics of any game. Like there's no added anything. It's just, here's your story. It's 4 to 5 hours long. Vin Diesel's really crapping it. Enjoy. Like I've played really short games before, but I least expect them not to be at this price tag at the very least. And as well as that, this is not like an indie studio. This is like a proper, you know, this would be an expensive game to get the rights of this name especially and put it together and put it out there, only to have 4 to 5 hours and that's it. That's the game. But somehow, even more disastrous than that, if you want to call it that, is they added an extra mode. So you get 2 modes. So when your 4 to 5 hour story mode is done, which is not good, there's an online mode, right? Where a bunch of people can play as the Fast and Furious crew. There's people who can play as cops. And it's kind of like your cops and robbers situation online mode in this game. The problem is no one's played online. At least I don't think there's no one online to play with. So as soon as I got into a lobby, I'm just sat there waiting for ages and no one's on there because it would be, oh, this game is a mess. So essentially, because the online is not working or there's no one to play with or no one wants to play this game online, you are paying full price for a 4 to 5 hour game that sometimes crashes, that has really, really bad story and voice acting in it, that has horrendous AI, and I haven't even finished with some of the other stuff that's going on in this game as well. So earlier I talked about those other games like Blur and Split Second. They all came from the PlayStation 3 era. There was a great time to be alive and play those games. This game carries on that tradition, and it looks like a PlayStation 3 game. It does not look like a game from 2020 made by fucking Codemasters with probably a good enough budget to... It looks like a PlayStation 3 game. There's still like a list of stuff I could go through. I found so many problems with this game while playing it that I haven't gone into, but you get the general gist of this. It's fun for like an hour, this game. So I guess for 1/4 or 1/5 of this game, you're getting fun. But if you look at the bigger picture, it is only 1/4 of what you're getting because this game is only 4 to 5 hours long. That would be fine. And normally I don't bring price into the equation, but when it's so short and the game is priced full price like a AAA title with the multiplayer that doesn't even work because no one's playing it or there's no servers, I don't know. It's just the biggest ripoff of all time, especially this year. This is by far the worst game I've played this year. But at the same time, I found it quite funny. You know, it's so bad, it's kind of good in that category. Should you buy it though? No. Don't buy this game. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I can't quite believe a game like this has come out in 2020. Fast and Furious Crossroads is by far the worst game I've played this year. And I honestly can't see anything beating it. It is god awful, but also puts a smile on my face in a strange way. I'm going to give Fast and Furious Crossroads a generous 3 out of 10. Thanks very much for watching. If this is your first time watching this review, I definitely have reviewed better games, so if you want to check out the rest of the channel, that'd be great. And I should be back very soon with a new review. See you soon. I'm going to need a bit of therapy after this game. I'm not even kidding.